It's Football Friday with Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. on Philadelphia's #1 college radio station, WHIP.
Thank you. Far too kind.
A little encore to bring us back here on a Football Friday. Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. here with you. I know our next guest loves Jay-Z, as I do follow him on Twitter at WMoon1, and he was actually at the Jay-Z Beyonce concert a few weeks ago, and we are talking about the NFL Hall of Famer, and that is Warren Moon, also the Seattle Seahawks color analyst, as he was on the call last night as the Seattle Seahawks blew out the Green Bay Packers. So let's go out to the phone lines right now and welcome in our good friend Warren Moon. Warren, it's Zach and Chase here in Philly. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, guys. How are you today?
Well, we're doing great, and we appreciate you giving us a few minutes today. And I was at the Super Bowl. I saw the Seattle Seahawks take home the Lombardi Trophy, and I was really impressed by their fan base. They traveled greatly to New York, and they were loud. And last night, you could barely hear it in that stadium. It must be tough for you guys to hear each other on the play-by-play as you're doing the color analysis when you take in that atmosphere at Seattle.
Yeah, it's a great atmosphere up there, no question about it. And the fans were in mid-season form last night. They had been waiting on this game for a long time, waiting for that banner to get dropped, and also waiting for their football team to come out there and play again. And we have earphones on, so we don't hear the noise as much when we're doing the radio broadcast. Every now and then, when I know it's really loud, I take the headphones off just what it sounds like. It's deafening in there. There's no question about it.
We're all like little 8-year-old kids when it's the start of the NFL season. We can't wait for Sunday. Last night was a great appetizer to start the 2014 season. And you played in the league for a bunch of years. You were a Hall of Fame quarterback. You had a lot of success. What was your best opening game memory when you look back at the start of your years?
I think just being able to come out and play the first game. Everybody goes to a long off season. Everybody goes to a long training camp and preseason, and just want to get to the real games that count. So I think every opening day to me that I played in was very special because it was another new chance for you to set your goals as far as winning the whole thing and trying to go after it. So I always was excited about opening day, and I was not a player yesterday, but I was just as excited about opening day yesterday as I was as a player.
Hall of Fame quarterback Warren Moon joins us on the show right now. Warren, it's Chase. Thanks so much for giving us a couple of minutes. Franchise quarterbacks, it's a mysterious label, and it's a tough title to live up to for those quarterbacks. Some people's definition of a franchise quarterback differs from others. Nick Foles in the city of Philadelphia, a lot of people are trying to figure out whether he can be that guy. He threw 27 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions last year in 13 games. When you look at his performance in 2013, can Nick Foles, in your eyes, be a franchise quarterback?
Well, if you base it off last year's performance, yes, you can. The only thing you need to do to be a franchise quarterback is to be very consistent. Always have your team in a position where they're going to be competitive to win the whole thing. That means getting to the playoffs every year, or at least every other year. And as long as you stay consistent and do the things that you've kind of established yourself as, and he's put the bar pretty high with last year's performance, then I think you'll be considered a franchise quarterback. So he's got a couple of more years to kind of have that identity, because they did get to the playoffs last year. They get there again this year, and the next year after that, now you start talking about franchise quarterbacks. So those are guys that are consistent and always have their team in a position to win.
In 2012, the Eagles won just 4 games. Last year, they win 10. They win the NFC East division. They make it back to the playoffs. A lot of that has to do with Chip Kelly. When he was hired, a lot of people were skeptical on whether or not his system or he could be successful as a head coach. When he was hired as the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, were you a little bit worried whether his system could translate to the NFL level?
No, I wasn't, because the NFL was already starting to adapt to that system. The spread formations and that were already coming into the league. The only difference about Chip Kelly's system is that he does it at a little more faster pace, and he got his team to play that way last year, and they did a great job with it. So I never had a question about the actual offensive philosophy that he employed at Oregon. I just wondered if he could get the guys in the NFL game to play as fast as they're able to play, because you don't have the sheer numbers that you have in college. So it's kind of hard to practice at that pace when you don't have that many guys. But he's somehow done it. He changed all those guys' diets and everything about working for them right now. You're going to see probably a lot of other teams try and emulate some of the things that they're doing because of the success they had last year.
We're spending a few minutes with the Hall of Fame quarterback Warren Moon, and let's not forget he has a great event coming up on October 2nd at the EMP Museum in Seattle. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But looking at this Eagles offense, it's a high-tempo unit like we just mentioned, and they did lose Deshaun Jackson as now he is in Washington with the Redskins. But you look at a player like Darren Sproles who they bring in, and he's going to complement LaShawn McCoy very nicely on the offensive side of the ball. How do you see Darren Sproles playing out in an Eagles uniform?
Well, what they like to do in that offense is get guys speed in space and try and get him the football. And Darren Sproles is one of those guys as good as anybody in the league when he's in space, one-on-one with a linebacker, one-on-one with a defensive back, and he makes one guy miss, and all of a sudden it's a big play. So having two of those guys on the same football team, having the ability to play them both at the same time, it's a matchup nightmare for most defenses. So I think it was a great move to bring in Darren Sproles, and he's already shown throughout the season that he's going to be a force to reckon with because he is a very dynamic player, and again, that offense allows you to get in space and make big plays.
I know Mark Sanchez is now the backup quarterback with the Eagles, but when he was starting with the Jets at his young stage of his career, they took away some of his pieces. You look at Nick Foles now, he's really getting in a full year number 2 at the quarterback position, and they did take away one of his big pieces in Deshaun Jackson. Early on in the season, what are you going to look at for Nick Foles to try to replace Deshaun Jackson?
Just to see how he spreads the football around. He did lose a lot in Deshaun Jackson because he's another one of those guys that's explosive. And you hate to lose the guy who can take the top off the defense like he can with his great speed. We have to see who's going to fill that role for them because Deshaun had an excellent year last year. How do you account for those yards and those touchdowns that you're going to lose not having him with your football team anymore? So Nick's going to have to find other guys to go to and find more guys that are going to be big play guys down the football field, something that Deshaun can do for them. I know Chip Kelly had his differences with Deshaun as far as his attitude, things like that. That's probably why he's not there anymore. But you can't buy the productivity the kid has had over the course of his career there in Philadelphia.
Warren, the Seattle Seahawks, they have a wonderful secondary. They're lethal back there. It's headlined by a couple of guys, but I just want to ask you about Richard Sherman real quick. Aaron Rodgers didn't throw his way once last night, which is very surprising to me because I would think as a quarterback you would like to test him to see what he's all about. You being a former quarterback and you being up in the booth and analyzing the game, if you put yourselves in Aaron Rodgers' shoes or any other quarterback, would you like to test Richard Sherman to see if you can get him to bite on something or try to toy with him a little bit?
Well, yeah, you have to throw the ball over there some. You don't even have to try and deep all the time. You can throw things in front of him. You can throw little quick hitches. There's a lot of things you can do to throw the football against any great corner. You just have to be very careful when you're throwing the football and know the type of routes that probably are safest to throw against somebody like that. But if you deny not throwing over there at all, that makes the field easier to cover because that's one half of the field that you're kind of taking away, saying, I'm not going to throw over there. That means you cut your field in half and you're only going to work one side of the field. I thought Green Bay really hurt themselves doing that last night. Even though Richard deserves that type of respect, as a quarterback myself, I played against some of the best cornerbacks in the history of the game, whether it's Mike Haynes, whether it's Deion Sanders or Rod Woodson, you name it. I threw it at them, and sometimes they got me, and sometimes I got them, but you got to challenge them.
When you look at the cornerback position now, they're a physical group, especially headlined by the Legion of Boom, and they're also a loquacious group. We all know Richard Sherman loves to talk, and it's an interesting debate. Now you have Darrelle Revis going to New England. If you had to pick a cornerback for this year, Richard Sherman or Darrelle Revis, who do you give the edge to? Who do you think is the better player?
Well, that's a good question. I know Darrelle has really had a great career and really one of the best in the league. A couple of years ago, he's had a lot of injuries since, and I'm really not sure, how healthy he is right now, and if he's going to be the same player that he was that we knew about 3 years ago when he had Revis Island. So, looking at Richard Sherman that I see every day because I work for this organization and I watch him practice, knowing that he's a very young guy, he's healthy right now. I'd have to go with Richard right now just because of his health, because of his age. But Darrelle Revis is definitely still one of the best corners in this league. I just have to get back up to that level that he was at a couple of years ago before his injury.
Warren, Russell Wilson had an excellent preseason. He threw for almost 500 yards. Last night, he was 19 of 28 for 2 touchdowns. He's a very smart quarterback. He can extend plays with his feet. He was a big part of that Super Bowl run, obviously, but he's only 25 years old, which is scary for the rest of the league. And I love his dedication to the sport of football. He loves studying defense, and he loves dissecting his own performance. In your eyes, is Russell Wilson just scratching the surface of his potential?
You know, he really is. Like you said, he's only in his 3rd season. He's already had 2 of the best seasons for a quarterback as far as winning in the National Football League history. And like you said, he loves to work on his game and get better, and he did that this offseason. He really worked on the fundamentals. His footwork is much better. He's getting the ball out of there quicker. He's making quicker decisions, and he's always made good decisions, but he's just making them a little bit quicker now because of his good understanding of the offense, the command of the offense. So only in his 3rd year, it's scary how good this guy can be because, like you said, he loves working at it, and he's only going to get better and better because he continues to work on his game.
October 2nd at the EMP Museum. Warren Moon has a great event coming up. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. We're joined by the Seattle Seahawks color analyst and the Hall of Fame quarterback right now. And Warren, you look at the state of the quarterback position right now. There's a numerous amount of offensive juggernauts in the league. And you still have the traditional passing quarterbacks and your marquee names of Tom Brady and Peyton Manning that are still producing at an older age. And then you have these young, quick quarterbacks that aren't afraid to get outside of the pocket. You mentioned the Russell Wilson, Colin Kaepernick, even Cam Newton. It's just amazing how big he is, and he can still move that quickly. Who's your favorite quarterback, though, to watch right now in the National Football League when you sit down just as a fan?
Well, definitely those 3 you talked about, the Tom Brady's, the Peyton Mannings, the Drew Brees of the world, and Aaron Rodgers. Those guys are still the top echelon quarterbacks in the league, I think, until somebody knocks them off that perch. But there are so many young quarterbacks kind of sitting there as well, like you talked about. So the league is in pretty good shape at quarterback position, especially for the top maybe 50 guys. I really like Phillip Rivers, too. He really made a resurgence last year in San Diego, had an excellent season, the ball at like 7% clip. They finally got more weapons around him after he lost Darren Sproles, after he lost Vincent Jackson. Now he's got some other guys to throw the football to. So there's a lot of good quarterbacks in this league. Ben Roethlisberger is another one who's been good for a long time. I mean, I can go on and on and on, but those top 4 guys are going to be hard to replace because they still keep playing at a very high level.
It's really remarkable when you look at 1 and 2 with Brady and Manning, how old they are and still how they're able to produce at an elite age. How much longer do you think number 18 and number 12 could do it at this elite level?
Well, I think as long as their health holds up, they can play, 2 or 3 more productive years. I was able to play well into my 40s, and I felt pretty good when I was right around 40 because I took very good care of my body, and I never had any major injuries. And the way you're able to take care of your body these days, all the different things they know about the body, how to take care of it, type of diet, all those different things, the supplements the guys take, guys are playing longer. So I think these guys can stay away from any major injuries and keep their legs in good condition because for a quarterback, I think that's the most important thing, more so than your arm, is your legs. As long as you have your legs up under you, you still move around and do the things you need to do, you can play this game a long time because they don't have to have the physical ability that they used to have, but the game slows down to them because of their mental capacity as well.
Warren, you were really revolutionary to the quarterback position because you brought speed, athleticism, and a running threat to the quarterback position that not a lot of people had seen before you. And you did come before Randall Cunningham, who kind of had that same type of style. And still to this day, and back then especially, not a lot of people agreed with a quarterback who was a running threat, but you did both. Did you realize at the time that you were really revolutionary at the quarterback position? Because now we see a bunch of quarterbacks who have adapted your style.
At the time, you didn't think about that. You just thought about what your skill set was and how it made you successful. And I knew I had variety to my game. There's no question about it. And I felt like that variety definitely helped me be successful when I played up in Canada because the game is totally different up there. You have to be able to have that mobility to be successful up there because of the wide field. But you also had to have a very strong arm to take advantage of defenses up there and know that it is a wider field. So when you're throwing those out, there are a little bit wider throws for you. And when you're playing in a lot of those winter stadiums up there where playing on those prairies, you better have a strong arm as well. So my game adapted well up there. there and then coming back down here, I just kind of use those same type of skill sets to play the game in the National Football League, and slowly but surely it evolved into that type of game. So I'm proud that I played a part in that, but when you're doing it, just trying to be successful as you can and use all the skills that you have.
On the way out here with Warren Moon, Zach Gelb, and Chase Sr. here with you, WHIP Radio in Philadelphia. Seattle Seahawks had a big victory last night, and we're getting ready for the Eagles and the Jaguars coming up this Sunday, 1 o'clock at Lincoln Financial Field. But real quickly, right before we get to the event that you're having at EMP Museum in Seattle, I want to ask you one quick question off the field. We've seen a lot of suspensions for off-the-field problems. Aldon Smith, Josh Gordon, you had the whole Ray Rice incident, and then you had Jim Irsay also get suspended as well. How would you grade the job that the commissioner has done with handing out these suspensions?
Well, in some instances, he's doing really good. And then, like in the Ray Rice incident, he said he made a mistake and he should have done a harsher penalty. And they made a wrong or right as far as how they're going to do it from here on out in handling domestic violence cases and things like that. So I think it's an ongoing thing as far as what the punishment is for some of these crimes these guys are committing. I think the commissioner's trying to be tough as he can, but he's also trying to be as fair as he can. And in most of these cases, I think he's getting it right. Again, he admitted the Ray Rice thing didn't go right, but I think for going forward, the punishment will fit the crime. So hopefully the players will get these messages and try and conduct themselves in a little bit better manner so they don't have to have this type of problem off the field.
You can follow Warren Moon on Twitter at WMoon1. And Warren, real quickly before we let you run, tell me about your event in Seattle at the EMP Museum. I heard it's a great event for a good cause.
Yeah, the NFL Films is doing a football life on my career, starting all the way back when I was 7 years old, up all the way through my career as a football player and now as a broadcaster. And I'm really interested to see how it comes out. It's going to be about an hour documentary. They've interviewed people in my life all the way back from Pop Warner football all the way up through high school, college, and into the pros. All my family members, college roommates, you name it, they talked to them. So we're going to do it as a premiere on October 2nd at the EMP Museum, which is the music museum here in Seattle. It's owned by Paul Allen, the owner of the Seattle Seahawks, and it's going to benefit my foundation, the Preston Moon Foundation, that funds scholarships for high school kids to go to college. So really excited about that. Looking forward to the second, just to see how the documentary came out and see if we can raise a lot of money to provide more scholarships for young kids that are disadvantaged.
Well, Warren, we appreciate a few minutes today. This is a whole lot of fun. We look forward to talking to you throughout the season. Thanks so much, and enjoy the event coming up on October 2nd and the rest of the football season.
Thanks a lot for having me on, guys. Appreciate it, and we'll talk along the way, okay?
Sounds good. Warren Moon right there, the Hall of Fame quarterback, giving us a few minutes on Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. What we'll do now is we'll take a quick break here on the main event, and when we get back from the timeout, we got some football picks to do on this Football Friday. 11:27, Gelb and Chase here with you. We'll be back